The benchmark price for an apartment in Calgary, Alberta is $309,000, up 13.5% from last year, which is $31,000 year-over-year growth. What is going on? Let's go check it out. Hi, my name's Adam Fife, your Calgary Realtor. If you're looking at stepping into the market, buyer, seller, investor, it is very important to get all of the information up front before you start to make any major decisions. If you want to get a little bit more of an insight, go ahead, book a call. The Zoom link is in the description. So let's start this off by looking at what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about apartments here in Calgary. August sales continue to rise over last month and last year's levels. Recent gains have caused the year-to-date sales to reach 5,500 units, up nearly 22% from last year, and a new record high for the city, which is pretty wild. The apartments have definitely flown off the shelves. Tight rental markets and relative affordability have driven much purchasers to the apartment condominium sector. At the same time, new listings have struggled to keep pace at a sales to new listing ratio bump up to 98% in August. Almost 100% of listings listed in August were sold. The entire city, causing inventories to ease and months of supply to drop to 1 month. The tight market conditions have been placing upward pressure on home prices, and as of August, the unadjusted benchmark price is $309,100, a monthly gain of 1% and nearly 13% year over year. Now, the city center is the only district not reporting a monthly price gain. The prices are still below their previous highs of 2014. So, city as a whole, we have actually achieved prices not seen in the city before, but the city center is still below 2014 prices. Pretty crazy times. Let's go check it out. So here's a chart that I love to touch on. This is the City of Calgary apartment inventory and sales. The red bar is the price point. You can see it's inching up to 310. I would imagine we're going to hit 310 before the end of the year. The blue bar is the inventory, the amount of homes left over, and the green bar is the sales. You can see that in this year, so the inventory has somewhat stabled off in the summer. Now it's starting to taper down into August, and the sales have actually continued to tick up. All year long, sales have increased. Now we're starting to see inventory drop. This is pretty wild to witness. Now you can see how tight the inventory and the sales are in Calgary. This is not Toronto, this is not Vancouver, this is Calgary. This is pretty wild to see just how tight the inventory and the sales are. It would be very wild to see sales outpace inventory. Going into September, October, November, I don't foresee the sales outpacing inventory, but with this amount of activity, it is very possible. Typically, September is a month that the investors start to offload product, they want to make new investments, but because the rental market is so hot, a lot of investors are most likely going to keep their product because the rental increase has been dramatic. So let's dive into this. Now, this is the sales. This is the year-to-date sales numbers for condos in Calgary. We have absolutely blown past everything we've seen in the past 10 years. 2014 was a very hot year. You can see we're around 3,200 sales year-to-date. We're above 5,000, which is almost double of that of 2014, which was a very, very hot market. You can see that new listings actually has outpaced everything seen in the last 10 years as well, which is really great to see. We're at 7,000 new listings year to date. That's also really great to see. When we start to go into this chart here, the months of inventory, this is more of a visual. You can see that the trending is just absolutely dropped off entirely. 2018, 19, 20, we were at 8 months of supply in the city. I started my business in 2017, 2018, 19, 20. All of those years, super slow for apartments in Calgary. There was so much inventory, we didn't know what to do with it. There wasn't enough buyers. Look at it now. It is so crazy to see how tight the market is. And truthfully, I just don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So, with that being said, let's start breaking it down into quadrants and figuring out where all this activity is. So this is the months of supply for the entire city. And in this video, we're going to concentrate on apartments here. Now, you can see that the average, or the black bar, is over 1 month of supply, which is very strong seller's market. It means that there's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply. When you look at the city center, it's at 1.5 months of supply, which is still very strong seller's market. All of these quadrants here are going to see some sort of price increase. The city center will be lagging in that department because there seems to be more inventory there, but for the most part, everything's going to fly. When you look at southeast, southwest, northwest, and east, you can see that they're close to half of a month, meaning if no new product came to the market, the same amount of buyers were in the market, it would only take about 15 days to clear out all the inventory. That is very, very fast. So it is pretty crazy to see what's going on in the city. So with that being said, this is where it's going to get a little bit more intense. Now I'm going to start doing this more often, and it's going to take a little bit of time to understand completely how this works. So this here is the benchmark price for each individual quadrant of Calgary. It's pretty wild to see all of the different benchmark attributes when you start to compare the different quadrants. So as an example, Calgary West, the square footage for an apartment there is 974, where if you look at something like Northeast, the square footage is only 846. So when you start to compare all of these quadrants, you'll notice the differences. And this really does play a huge effect or an importance when you start to look at stuff like this. Now, this is the benchmark price for August. Now, we're only going to look at apartments here. You can see that the apartments is obviously the lowest one, and you can see that everything is relatively in the same like price point. You can see that the city center, the west, and the southeast are all very similar for the benchmark price. You start to see that the northwest and the south are similar. Northeast is a little bit cheaper, and then the east is the cheapest. So when you see this, and then you also refer to this here, you can start to really paint a picture on exactly how much specific units are in different quadrants of Calgary. So if you're looking for a specific unit at a specific price point, your expectations are set. It's very important to look at these things and start to develop your game plan on how you want to do that. Now, when you are a homeowner and you're looking at how much your condo is worth, you could start to utilize this data as well. So you start to cross compare, okay, well, what's your unit? How big is it? What's the size of it? Yada, yada, yada. If you are curious about what your home price is, feel free to put your home address into my portal here. This home address or this portal is for me only. I'm the only one that looks at this. It spits out an evaluation instantly. It's very useful. If you're not looking to sell, that's totally fine. I don't expect you to sell. If you're an investor and you want to know what your cap rates could be or what your rental increases could be, and you want to compare that to your purchase price, then put that into the portal as well, and it'll spit out an instantaneous email. It is very, very, very impressive. So moving forward, this is the bread and butter that everyone is interested in. They want to know what's going on in the microeconomic outlook of Calgary. So this is the month of August for every quadrant. You can see the total sales, the total new listings, the sales to new listings ratio, which is pretty crazy to see. You can see that there are 5 or 6 quadrants that sold well over 100% more listings than they did sales. So when you start to look at months of supply, you can see again, you'll have a lot of things closer to that half a month where the city center is closer to 1.5. You look at the benchmark prices here, you can see that the city center is the most expensive at $326,000. Calgary West is pretty close at 321. You start to look at the year-over-year percentages, the month-over-month percentages, and then boom, the actual increase in 1 month. City Center has actually seen a decrease of $900. Pretty much flat. Not anything too crazy to talk about, but when you start to look at something like Calgary North or Calgary South and Southeast that have $7,000 increase in 1 month, that's a bigger story. That just tells me that there's a lot of movement in those areas, especially when you start to look at those 137, 113% sales to listing ratios. So condos in Calgary are hot. They are going to continue to increase in price point. I do not foresee a slowing down. There could be a flattening or a very small correction over the deep winter months, but I don't think that we're going to see any dramatic declines unless something major happens in our market, which I don't foresee happening. So very, very, very important that you look at this data and then you start to assess your personal situation. The market is very competitive. You have to make sure that if you're going to step into the market, that you're doing so wisely and you're doing so in a way that will actually find you success. There's a lot of people out there right now, buyers, that are spinning their tires, getting frustrated, burning out. If you're a seller, you're probably laughing. There's a lot of good information, there's a lot of good activity for your sale, but you still need to make sure that you're putting in the right strategy because you don't want to be left behind if you end up asking too much. So with all that being said, I went over that very fast. There's a lot of different things here to consider. If you are looking to develop a game plan, again, my Zoom link's in the description. Go ahead, book a call. If you just want to know what your condo's worth, go ahead, use my portal. It's just me looking at it. I'm not going to bombard you with information. It's just a very good service. It's a very good platform to showcase exactly what your unit could be worth within seconds. So thank you very much. That was a lot of information. I actually did a lot of that in one take, so I appreciate your time. Go ahead, like the video, comment below, show some support. Until next time, peace.